Is the monitor 80 worth $20 more than the monitor 60? Stick around, let's dissect it. Greetings, mates. Stuart Chaucer, HomeStudioBasics.com, helping you make sound decisions leading to a beautiful audio experience that will make you fall in love with music, not gear, all over again. So, the M60 and M80 are quite similar, but there are a few discrepancies that you should be made aware of. The pads are now velour and shallower versus the M60's protein leather, which contributes to some sound differences that we'll get into in a jiffy. The M80 is lighter and smaller in stature than the M60, but it mostly has to do with the M60's dummy thick pads. The M80 does seem a little more nimble and malleable, but again, the pads are the biggest difference. Both have a slightly different aesthetic when it comes to the outside of the ear cup / driver housing. The M80's grille is larger and there's also more wording. The right hand side reads, "The Power of Music," and below that, Monitor 80. The left cup says High Definition Driver, and below that, 250 ohm. The M60 is also closed back while the M80 is open. The Monitor 80 has 250 ohms of impedance and roughly the same sensitivity, over 100 decibels, but I wouldn't freak out about it and go spending all of your hard-earned street corner money. Just chill out and be sensible, alright mate? Neither are hard to drive, and I was just fine with the M80 out of a Zen with power match on at around 12 to 1 o'clock. Without gain, 1 to 2. Now for the similarities. Both rotate and fold in all the same ways. Both look like M50X offspring, meaning one audio copied the design, which I don't think is a bad thing. Both have metal for the headband adjustments and are made of mostly plastic, but neither feels as durable as the M50X. You likely won't have a problem with this, as either can be worn for hours without an adjustment. This is great for extended mixing sessions as well. Both have the dual-sided connectors, which means no 1/4" adapter needed. Both have pretty much an identical headphone / bail structure. Both are incredibly comfortable, but I give the edge to the M80 because of those insanely comfortable velour pads. As comfy as velour is, it does tend to get dirty easily and collects a lot of undesirables such as hair, dust, random particles, etc., which can be kind of irritating to remove. I'll see myself out. You'll often find yourself picking specks out of the pads after each use, which depending on who you are could be fun or a nightmare. If you're OCD like me, perhaps it's a little of both. Whatever. The M60's pads are self-cleaning, kind of like a cat, and we all know cats are way better than dogs. Because of the pad change, these are pretty radically different sounding headphones in many ways. For one, the M80's soundstage, while out of your head sometimes, isn't as good. In fact, the M60 seems to do a better job of revealing strange and perhaps unintended artifacts in songs that you may or may not have been aware of before. The M80 is also much flatter and more neutral across the board. Especially with regard to the mid-bass. It would seem that in comparing with these back and forth, the M80 probably works better for the casual kickback and relax type of homie who wants to enjoy music rather than be too critical of it. The mid-bass is certainly more forward here, and the overall sound seems lusher than the somewhat overly dull M80. Both suffer from that dry, papery, kind of drab sound, but the M80 takes that concept and really ramps it up to 11. Even so, it works mostly for the sheer fact that it was designed for mixing and tends to fit that moniker much better than say an M40X, a headphone that's still being marketed for the studio when it's anything but. If I like the M60 but couldn't quite recommend it wholeheartedly for mixing purposes, even despite it having some great qualities, the M80 certainly quells most any doubt. This is due to its painfully ruler flat response and propensity to highlight absolutely horrendous sounding mixes and masters. Seriously, there are songs that sound like absolute low-grade quality dog shit with these, and I'm mostly certain that it's the headphones revealing those flaws. This is something that you'll come to really appreciate when mixing down a track and looking for subtle or not so subtle errors. A quick example will be the track I'm currently working on. Even before sitting down to do some serious EQ, the M80 has already highlighted an area in the treble that's much too bright, something I really haven't noticed with anything else I have lying around. You too likely won't notice it with other headphones that tend to gloss over the music, in essence putting tits on a boar, or lipstick on a pig if you want to be all traditional about it. No, the Monitor 80 was marketed for the studio and I think it fits the bill extremely well. So for $20 more, yes, I would definitely consider these for mixing and plan to add them to my bestest studio headphone article list thing. which I'll link below. The roughly $80 M60 does a lot of things right, but ultimately I think it works better for chillaxing, even though both excel in that department. As mentioned in the article, I found myself listening to both of these for much longer periods of time and with a lot more music than some other recent demos. The M60 seems to be a bit more colored overall, with a forward mid-bass and a lusher, denser sound with better soundstage. The only reason I'd consider a 60 over the 80 for mixing is because of its ability to highlight more details in the track, surely a byproduct of its wider staging due to the ear cup discrepancy. This is why it's a bit difficult to choose, even though the M80 gains an edge because it tends to be much more neutral overall. What? In fact, these may actually be the same exact driver/sound and tuning, only with different ear pads, but don't quote me on that. It will be interesting to put the M60's cups on the M80, but that's a video for another day. What are your thoughts on this? Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to ask me about my grandchildren. Always have faith no matter what it looks like. And last but certainly not least, don't ever give up. Aight?